Fetele din România sunt foarte frumoase.
Sunt cele mai frumoase.
Că româncile sunt foarte frumoase, cred că este o opinie subiectivă.
Nu, fetele din România sunt cele mai frumoase fete, cel puțin din Europa.
Wow, in Europa.
Salut din Iași, Romania. So greetings from the city of Iași in the east of Romania. We're close here today to the Moldovan border. And behind me we have the city's landmark, the Palatul Culturii, the Palace of Culture, I guess we would translate it as. And in this video, I'm going to give you 5 reasons to consider coming here to Romania and maybe even relocating at least part of the year to this country. And I actually spent a lot of time in Romania. Maybe it was around, well, close to 10 years ago. And I traveled around the entire country, and I spent a lot of time in Bucharest, its capital, so I can give you my insights into my time here and why you might consider making the move or just visiting Romania. Now, I haven't spent so much time recently. I did spend a month in Bucharest in February, March 2022 when I evacuated from Ukraine, obviously with the Russo-Ukrainian war. Mulțumesc frumos to all the Romanians who helped Ukrainians and other people like your Irish boy here who was evacuating in those dark times. And I'm also going to throw in a good bit of B-roll from my previous trips to Romania, and basically to Bucharest and Transylvania. I documented it, when I started doing more travel vlogging and lifestyle here in what I'm dubbing New Europe. So I know the countries between Germany, further to the east of Germany and west of Russia. And Romania is one of them, and it's a country I am increasingly asked about in terms of my opinion, whether it's a good move for you to consider coming here. So, hai să mergem!
SAR Experience.
Now that I'm out of this sweltering heat, sitting on the balcony of my Airbnb apartment, since I'm here in Iași, just very briefly, let me start with reason number 1 to come to Romania, maybe consider even living here. And it is the fact that this country is not a small country, it's not an enormous country. It is smaller than somewhere like France or Germany or Ukraine, but it is bigger than most European countries. And as a result, you have quite a bit of diversity in terms of the topography. So you have in the center, which I'm going to come to later in this video, amazing Transylvania, really incredible part of this country. Got incredible nature there, the mountains, rivers running through it, really quite stunning. One of my favorite parts of Europe is Transylvania. Then you've got the seaside. Obviously we have the Black Sea here in Romania, and the main city on the coast is Constanța. You have a seaside area called Mamaia, and then you have the capital Bucharest, for example. It's just like a huge city, a sprawling metropolis. And then you have the more quaint Saxon architecture, so it's got like old German architecture in a lot of the cities more in the center of Romania. This country also had different influences depending on the period of history. So the architecture in Bucharest, the center is going to be quite different to say the architecture in Brasov or in somewhere like Sibiu, where it's more Saxon, as it's known as locally, so more kind of German style. And then you have some that's more Austro-Hungarian, like if you go to a city like Oradea, close to the border with Hungary. So I think you have just a mixture of different scenes or scenery throughout the country. And yeah, if you like nature, then this is definitely a pretty good country for you. And let me dispel the notion that this is some sort of like Euro trip, circa 2000 stereotype of Eastern Europe, that everything is completely dilapidated and people live in desperate poverty, third world level. The dogs are roaming the streets, devouring corpses, as was kind of the joke in that film. They were actually in Bratislava in Slovakia, supposedly for that particular scene. Things are developing in Romania quite fast. The economy has been growing really quickly over the last decade or so. They joined the European Union in 2007, so at this point we're not quite at 20 years like we are for Poland, but it is catching up quite quickly. So the gulf between, say, the living standards that you would see in, say, Western Europe, in old Europe, as I refer to in my videos, it is narrowing, but there is a difference. Just looking behind me, we have yeah, we have some older, kind of more dilapidated communist style blocks that were built during the Ceausescu era over there, and then we have the more modern stuff here. So I notice the difference every time I come back to Romania. It's just like in Poland. This is a country that trajectory is upwards in terms of its economic situation. So that brings me into point two, or reason two, is the value for money, because the cost of living here in Romania is more or less half of, say, old Europe or Western Europe. And that depends where you are. Like, obviously, it's cheaper to live in Portugal or Spain than it is in France, in Germany, or in Scandinavia in general. But I did a comparison on Numbeo between cost of living in Bucharest, the capital of Romania, and Paris, and it is about half the price. So that's probably a good ballpark figure, that it's going to be substantially cheaper than living in a city, a big city in Western Europe, whether it's London, Paris, Berlin, than living, say, in Bucharest. And obviously, if you go to the province, it's going to be cheaper again, like it is also in France. If you know, there's obviously a price difference between being in, say, Lille and being in Paris or Lyon. So that is key to why a lot of guys consider moving to Romania, especially if you can set up your manage your resources, your revenues online. If you're able to be location independent to a certain extent, maybe still have bricks and mortar businesses back in the US like some of my clients do, but they're able to manage them remotely. So then they can take advantage of the better value for money, because as the country develops, there are amenities that are going to be comparable to where ever you're watching this video from back home. It's not going to be a massive difference like it would have been 20 years ago. Just the price of those is going to be lower here than it is there. Same if you were going out and partying, going to the local club, making it rain, maybe taking a table at the VIP. It's going to be cheaper in Romania than it's going to be, say, in Paris or London. Comparable experience, but so euro, pound, yen, euro, dollar goes further here, and then it's going to go in old Europe or North America. So that is one of the key factors why a lot of guys consider moving to a country like Romania. It's better value for money. And as I said, it's not, you know, in terms of the infrastructure, it is improving all the time. It is behind being in Western Europe. It's not the same, you know, the trains and stuff and some of the roads, they are developing, catching up after, you know, they had communism for over 40 years, and that, yeah, just led to a terrible situation in terms of the standard of the infrastructure overall versus comparable cities in old Europe. So next part, reason number three, and this is the one that I know a lot of guys, probably most of the audience, waits for in these videos. It is the dating scene as a straight guy here in Romania. Now, Romanian women are pretty renowned for their beauty, I would say, overall in Europe, like women in this broader region. And in general, I would say the difference is that here girls tend to have dark hair and dark eyes in general. So if you like that look, I used to always refer to it in my videos, say a year ago, as the Latino look of the region, but I got feedback from some of my American clients, in particular those that came with me to neighboring Moldova, that actually the American concept of Latino is more kind of Mexican in terms of what they see as Latino or Latina, compared to what I was thinking more kind of like an Argentinian, where there's predominantly European heritage. So probably would be better described as Latino in kind of the European sense, or like more like Italian or Spanish looking. So if you like that look, then you're going to find it in abundance here, because girls in general have brown chestnut hair and dark eyes. Now, there are differences in complexions throughout the country. There are minorities here. As I said, it's had a diverse history as a country. So there was a significant German minority here, for example, and they stayed until basically the end of communism. And then they made a beeline straight to Germany when the border opened and they could finally get out, because the conditions were pretty dire back 30 years ago. You know, there's a huge gulf in living standards between and freedoms between, obviously, communist Romania under Ceausescu and, you know, West Germany at the time, later United Germany. So you do have people who are also of, say, Hungarian background, Serbian background. I think there's even a Slovak minority. They tend to have probably lighter eye color and lighter hair color. So you do have girls like that. And it's actually been what I've noticed with Romanian girls that maybe I was dating, say, back in the day, 10 years ago, that the ones that had these lighter features then would tell me, actually, I have a grandparent who's Serb, or I have a grandparent who's German, or some other mix that gave them that look. So in general, Romanian girls are this kind of more Italian, Spanish looking type. I would say that's probably makes it more easy to understand. Other thing here, as in more or less the entire region, obesity is not a thing. Women in general have slender figures. Being slim and trim and increasingly being fit and trendy stylish, very important in Romanian society, I would say. And yeah, they don't have the obesity problems that are plaguing North America and basically more or less the whole core Anglosphere, throwing the United Kingdom into that, where we just see like crazy obesity rates. When I lived in America 20 years ago, it was already a very striking problem, and it seems to statistically have gotten a lot worse since then. It's very unhealthy to be overweight and definitely to be obese, like clinically obese. Like that's just like a health disaster waiting to happen, unfortunately, for those people. So this is not something that afflicts Romania too much. Women in general are slim. Wouldn't say that they're particularly tall in general. They tend to be more this kind of maybe slightly shorter than the European average. It's not like going to the Baltics where you have like a completely different type, like the land of the leggy blonde, as they call Latvia, because yeah, girls are some of the tallest in Europe, and some of the blondest here tend to be a little bit more petite and have darker features. So maybe a final point on the dating scenes. A lot of guys are going to get excited. Romanian women are known for their beauty, but I have to say, as a foreigner, again, and doesn't have a local social circle maybe, and doesn't speak Romanian, and is basically living a kind of a expat, digital nomad, passport bro lifestyle, then it is going to be quite difficult with Romanian women. They are not so open to dating foreigners who don't have any of those things, like local social circle, high value in any case. And, you know, speaking Romanian is always an advantage, like speaking the local languages in this region. Connor's Law, as one of my clients refers to it as. So I would say overall, a lot of guys are disappointed. I watch other content creators, guys who seem to be in shape, tall, seem to do well with the ladies back home, even if it's in somewhere in the core Anglosphere, and then they come to Bucharest on a weekend and they're really...
I was just about to say, it's been a humbling experience.
Yeah.
I went, do you speak English? You went, no I don't. I went, you just spoke to me in English, you mate. Fucking hell.
So yeah, it's a bit of a humbling experience for the Graph Kings, but it is what it is. Got to take your L's. That's how you learn, that's how you grow.
We live to fight another day.
Yeah, we live to fight another day. Mason said he's not going out tonight, but I bet we can persuade him.
We might aim for a bit lower, 4 out of 10, see where we get.
I'm kind of surprised about the lack of positive feedback they get from the women. So don't come here and think that it's like shooting fish in a barrel, that the Romanian girls are desperate for a guy from the US and you're thinking America and waving your passport. It is 2024 and not 1994. You are 30 years too late to that party. So that's what I'll say about the dating scene. Now, on to reason number 4, which is one of my favorite things to talk about when I refer to Romania, is one of my favorite regions in all of Europe, Transylvania. Now, Transylvania. Obviously, there is a book called Dracula. You're probably familiar with it. It's made, obviously, several times into films or the movies. And it, you know, has this vampire theme. And Dracula is then supposed to be in Romania and Transylvania. Well, Transylvania is in Romania. But, of course, this is a figment of the imagination of a British-Irish author called Bram Stoker. And actually, you know, the name Dracula refers to Vlad Tepes, who is a historical figure, quite a horrific psychopath, but he is nationally from Romania, killed a lot of people by impaling them. He wasn't actually a vampire, but he did have this gory reputation for extreme violence and, you know, obviously torturing to death a lot of his victims, his adversaries. So that stuck, and Bram Stoker took the name. But the Romanians have tried to capitalize in terms of the tourist dollar coming from the Dracula legend. And there are many castles claimed to be Dracula's castle if they had any association with Vlad Tepes. And the most famous one is in Bran. It's worth a visit, but yeah, I'm not personally too inspired by the Dracula paraphernalia around it. It's a little bit tacky in my opinion, but it's a decent castle. However, Transylvania, the region itself, is amazing. Just the amount of nature, the mountains. You can go skiing in the winter in Poiana, Brașov. You have beautiful cities like Sighișoara, Sibiu, Brașov. What are the names of the other ones? Like Orashkov, I think was one other one we went. We went to these fortified monasteries that basically, you know, the center of the village. I think one of them was called Birtan, where we went to. Went to several of them. They're like quite famous. Another one we went to is Deutsche Weiskirche or Viskri. So I gave the German name because this is the heritage left by German settlers, Saxon settlers that built these fortified churches to protect them from obviously people who wanted to raid their village. So I think primarily that was the Ottomans who they were defending this part of Europe from. And yeah, we have these beautiful towns. So even back in the day, I went and I stayed in Viskri, which has these historic German guest houses. And yeah, Prince Charles at the time of Wales, now he's King Charles, he even had some houses there. It's quite remarkable. So yeah, it's not maybe the scene that you're expecting. It is phenomenal. You have these beautiful historic centers. It is a more provincial lifestyle. I think in terms of the scene there, it is quite different from somewhere like in southern Romania, like the capital of Bucharest. It feels very different. It's a lot quieter paced, calmer. Yeah, but really, really, really beautiful, I have to say, in terms of the architecture and the scenery. And you can go hiking, you can go rafting, you can do a lot of different activities there. For me, it is one of my favorite parts of Europe to go and hang out in. So Transylvania for the win. And finally, let me give you reason number 5. It is the linguistics of Romania. The level of English is very high in Romania, maybe even higher than somewhere like Poland. It's also quite high. It's not quite as high as, you know, the Swedes or the Dutch, which basically almost speak English is my native level. They're not far off it, to be frank, but it's a little bit lower. But there is a company, I should mention Education First, they do a ranking of English as a foreign language, as a second language across the globe, and they put Romania in that top category. Obviously, like most of the region, for socializing, it is of course better if you speak Romanian, because that's going to make you stand out. Not just in the dating sphere, it helps with girls as well, but also just in general in terms of making friends and socializing. The fact that you know some of the local language, you don't seem to, it moves you out of the tourist box, and especially because Romania used to have a lot of sex tourism, still does to have a certain extent in the Centru Vechi, the old town of Bucharest, where a lot of guys come on a lads weekend, and you know, a lot of that involves strip clubs and more, and you want to stand out from those guys because those guys aren't seen as particularly high value by the local people. They're obviously a blow in for a weekend, spending their cash on those kind of vices. So learning Romanian, obviously automatically you're taken out of that particular negative category. And Romanian, fortunately for you, if you are considering learning it, and maybe you've already studied Spanish like a lot of Americans do in high school, then Romanian is actually quite easy to learn relative to, say, the languages further east of here, like Ukrainian and Russian, which are Slavic languages and a lot further away from English. Romanian is part of the Romance language family. That means it's similar to Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, to a lesser extent French. So if you've studied those languages before, or maybe even speak them, then you're going to find Romanian a lot easier to learn. However, having learned all those other languages that I just mentioned, and some others that are Romance like Catalan, I have to say that Romanian was by far the hardest for me to learn, even though it's put in that easiest category by the Foreign Service Institute, which is part of the US government, which ranks languages by their difficulty for a native English speaker. I used to have a language learning blog. It's actually around the time when I used to hang out here in Romania back in the day, maybe a decade ago. And I have to say that Romanian took a lot longer to learn. The vocabulary is quite different. The grammar is different and, in my opinion, more complex. It has influences from a lot of other languages, like some of the Slavic languages, like Turkish, like maybe some extra words that come from German, but it will be more recognizable than, say, learning Polish or learning Russian or Ukrainian or something like that. So I think for the linguistic situation, obviously if you're coming as a tourist or you're getting started, the fact that everyone speaks very good English is a big plus, because you're not going to have the same difficulties that you would, say, moving to other countries, maybe further to the east of here. But then at the same time, when you decide to learn the local language Romanian, it's actually a lot easier than it's going to be if you go, say, and move to a country like Ukraine or Poland, where increasingly, especially in Poland, learning Polish is really important socially. So that is what I'm going to say about the 5 reasons to come and consider spending some time in Romania.
Experience.
So there you have my 5 reasons to consider coming to this country, Romania, and maybe even relocating part of the year, maybe 3 months, or the entire year, make that permanent move. Now, in general, I am helping my clients not just with here in Romania, actually principally with the countries nearby in New Europe. I'll link it up in the card above, down below in the video description, a video about why I define this region as New Europe as opposed to Old Europe or Eastern Europe, which is further east, in my opinion, of here with Russia. And basically, I help my clients with going to countries like Moldova, Ukraine, the 3 Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, also to Poland, to Warsaw, and all the way over just off the Central Asian steppes to Kazakhstan. And basically, I have a premium introduction service for the main cities in those countries where I bring my clients, and we overcome problems that a lot of guys are going to face when they come here. It's going to be the same in Romania. You're probably going to be building no mates if you don't have an existing social circle here, and you're not going to know where all the places are to socialize, go out. You're not going to be able to quickly acculturalize to the local culture, and basically I help my clients overcome those obstacles and basically have an unforgettable extended weekend. Can be up to a week with me, Connor Klein, on the Zara Experience. Now, if you want to steal my secret places in this region, then down below in the video description is a link to a free PDF. Go and grab that while it's still there. And yeah, if you think you are a good fit for the Zara Experience, there's also an application form down there. But first of all, I'm going to put up 3 playlists, some city vlogs where I have gone with clients in the past, give you a bit more of the flavor of the in-person experience with me. Second of all, we have my series of tutorials for the single guys dating the uber beautiful women of this region, the 9s and 10s, the Olympian level of beauty. And third of all, we have my vodcast series. It's over 50 hours of content, so be discerning, scroll through it, because otherwise you'd spend over a day watching through all the videos that I've made over the last few years about this region and other places. So go check out all that good stuff, and yeah, drop me a comment down below if you are planning to come to Romania. Maybe it's going to be in the summer 2024 when I'm shooting this video. Well, actually, this is Easter Monday. It's actually the 6th of May, and look at this incredible weather already. It feels like the middle of summer. So it's going to be another amazing summertime vibe series of travels on my channel. I hope it's going to be the same for you. And on that note, I'm going to bid you la revedere din Iași, Romania. So see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao from Iași, Romania.